Are you trying to learn coverages and have laser vision? Looks like you came to the right place. Let's get right into it. Alright everybody, we're going to be going over cover 1 first, and one thing I want you to know is that cover 1 is interrelated with cover 3. They have the same exact formation. That's what makes it difficult to read pre-snap. That's more of a post-snap read, but you can narrow it down to cover 1 or cover 3 by knowing how many safeties there are and where are the corners playing. So the first thing I want you to do when you get out of a huddle is see how many safeties there are. That's the first thing you should do every single play. And here you can see that there is one safety. So when you see one safety, you can tell yourself and narrow this down to either cover 1 or cover 3. It's a lot better than just going into a play and not even knowing what coverage it is. Now you have it narrowed down to 2. But the next step is now looking at the outside corners. And you can see that the outside corners are around 8 yards off the ball, well, off the receivers. And usually that indicates, again, a cover 1 or cover 3. When you have one high safety and the outside corners are 8 yards off the receiver. That is a major indicator that is cover 1 or cover 3. One thing I want you to know too is that when you play advanced players, they will be disguising their coverages all the time. So it's very hard to read what defenses they're in. That's where motioning receivers comes in and a couple other things. But right now, we're not even going to be talking about disguises. We're just going to go over the basic concepts so you can get that in your head right now. But again, when you have one high safety and you have the outside corners 8 yards off the ball or off the receiver, you know that it's either cover 1 or cover 3, and you got it narrowed down to 2 coverages. And now here we have cover 3. But as you can see, it's the same exact formation that we were in cover 1. So it looks very similar. Well, it is similar. It's almost identical. So it's hard to determine what it is. But again, after you get out of the snap, you got to look at that one high safety. And you see the outside corner second, and they're 8 yards off the ball. So again, now you can see that it's either cover 1 or cover 3. So it's the same exact formation. These are basic coverages. We're not talking about any disguises. Cover 1 and cover 3 are interrelated. 8 yards off the ball or off the receiver with the outside corners and one high safety. And when you have this type of formation, you can have 2 different route concepts on 2 sides of the ball. On the right side, you might want to have a cover 3 beater. Then on the left, you might want to have a man beater. Just in case you aren't really sure if it's a cover 3 or cover 1, you have 2 sides having 2 different route concepts, and one of those sides will be right. And that definitely takes practice, a lot of repetitions, and something I can show you at the end of the video, so make sure you stay and watch the whole thing. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to become a better Madden player. And now, again, I'm going to say it again and again and again. The first thing you do after you get out of that huddle, you pick your play, you got to look at how many safeties there are. And here, you can see that there are 2 high safeties. And now when there are 2 high safeties, I want you thinking cover 2 or cover 4. That's what I want you thinking. But the main indicator that this is a cover 2 zone are the outside corners. So remember, you always want to look at the safeties and then the outside corners, and that's how you're going to dictate what formation they're in. So we have 2 safeties, and then when you look at the outside corners, you can see that they're 5 yards off of their receiver, but with an outside shade. That is the key indicator that they are in a cover 2 zone, when the corners are 5 yards off the receiver and have an outside shade. And then once you know that, you can really change your route concepts to beat cover 2. And there are a lot of plays and formations in this Madden that you can beat cover 2 very easily. It's probably one of the easiest coverages, at least the default coverage is very easy to beat. Now, I just picked my play. The first thing I look at is what? That is correct. 2 high safeties. I'm looking at the safeties, and there's 2 high safeties. And now you want to look at the outside corners, and you can see that they are a press man with an inside shade. When you have 2 high corners and press man inside shade on all of those guys, you know that this is instantly a cover 2 man, one of the best defenses in this game. And it's as simple as that. 2 high safeties with those corners pressed up with the inside shade. And again, people do adjustments, maybe to disguise this coverage, maybe with the corners outside shade. But the default play for cover 2 man is with those guys having inside shade and are pressed up. And again, at the end of the video, I will show you some basic route concepts that can beat these coverages. Now again, we just picked the play, so we looked at the safeties, and there are 2 high safeties again. It's not cover 2 though, because those outside corners are 8 yards off the ball. So what could this be? This would usually be a cover 4 zone. When you have 2 high safeties and the corners are 8 yards off the ball, you can immediately put in your head this is a cover 4 zone and then make adjustments to your offense to beat this zone. So again, with 2 high safeties and the corners, the outside corners to be exact, are 8 yards off the receivers, you know this is a cover 4 zone. Now let's get into really what these defenses are and how you can beat them. So we're going to go back to cover one, and I'm going to show you just some basic route concepts that could beat cover one. And again, something that I heard a while ago, abilities beat cover one, and man, they beat cover one. If you don't have abilities on your receivers, if you don't have speed on your receivers, you will not get a lot of separation in this game. So make sure you have abilities on your receivers so you can get separation against man coverage, or else you're just going to be manned up a lot and you're going to get very frustrated. So here, we have one high safety and two corners. So with one high safety 13 yards off the ball, and then the two safeties, the outside safeties, are 8 yards off the ball, I can say to myself, this is either a cover one or cover three. That's what goes on in my head. How do I know what one it is? I can either snap it and see post-snap, or I can motion my receiver to see if he follows. And he is following, so I can immediately tell myself, hey, this is most likely a cover one because he's following his man. So since I now know this is a cover one, I'm going to change the way I want to run this play. I'm going to go to tight, and I'm going to run a corner route with Mike Evans and see if I can get him over the top. Now, if that's not open, I need other route concepts to get open for me, because I can't just have one route. I need more guys to be open. So what I'm going to do is put Godwin on a slant, and I'm going to put Kate Otten on a corner, and I'm going to keep Russell Gage in that route because I want him to occupy that high safety. Mike Evans should have an open touchdown, but again, it depends on how well that corner covers him. But as we can see, Chris Godwin is wide open too. So is Mike Evans, but I just wanted to show you other routes we're going to be open. So again, that's just a route concept to beat man coverage. You got slants, you got corners, posts could work. I'll show you that one more time. Again, I already motioned my guy over, so I know that it's cover one because he followed Chris Godwin. So I'm going to put Chris Godwin on a slant, Kate Otten on a corner, leave everything else. Let's see if I can get Mike Evans. Got Mike Evans. Oh, he dropped it. I don't know how he dropped that, but listen, man, those are the route concepts to beat cover one. I would do that again to show you, but I think you guys get the concept, and now we're going to go to cover three. So here we have one high safety with the outside corners, 8 yards off the ball. Looks very similar to cover one. But what we're going to do is motion over Chris Godwin, and as we can see, that player does not follow Chris Godwin. So we can immediately tell ourselves, yo, this is a cover three. So what I'm going to do is motion him back. I'm going to put Chris Godwin. Actually, what I feel like doing, I'm going to put Chris Godwin on a corner. I'm going to put Kate Otten on a go. And then I'm going to put the running back in the slot. And I'm actually going to put the running back on a go. And I'm going to put Kate Otten on a zig. And watch this comeback route if I have time in the pocket. Wide open. I don't know what that throw was, but he was wide open. Let's try that again. So I'm going to do that again because I didn't like how we ran those routes. But here we go. That's a perfect... Now I can show you. So I put a corner route on Chris Godwin, and I put a go route on Kate Otten. It's just a flat route on the running back. And the reason for this is because this, on cover three, this go route is going to occupy this outside third. So when that outside third is occupied, and this flat is occupied, this whole space, if it wants to let me move, is wide open. So that's why those comeback routes with a seam route right next to it in the slot is very, very, very fun to run against people, because a lot of people are going to think that he's running a corner, but then when they see him on a go, they might follow him, and that leaves Chris Godwin wide open. So that's a good concept to run against cover three. So now against cover two, I'm going to show you one of my favorite route concepts, but first we're going to look at the safeties. There are two high safeties with the outside corners 5 yards off the wide receivers with an outside shade. So we immediately tell ourselves, yo, this is a cover two. Those corners are showing cover two. We are saying that it's a cover two. So we're going to change our route concepts based on a cover two zone. Now, what beats a cover two zone? Corner routes beat a cover two zone, go routes, and wheel routes. So yeah, this is one of my favorite route concepts. I'm going to put the running back on a wheel. I'm going to put Chris Godwin on a flat and Kate Otten on a go. And watch this baby work, and I'll explain to you why it works in a second. Wide open tutty. I've ran this a lot when I have players running cover two against me, and they stop running it right after I score a tutty on them. It's not always a tutty. Sometimes they get sacked because my offensive line is trash. But here we go. So I ran a flat route with Chris Godwin because that occupied this flat defender. He had to stay true to this flat defender. That is why he just ran right by him and he couldn't cover. Now, this go route occupied this safety, just enough time for me to give it to my running back. So I have a lot of people occupying the different zones of the cover 2, which led this man to get wide open because no one was covering this space. He was concerned about Cade up the middle in the seam and left this part of the field wide open. So now we picked our play, we go look at the 2 high safeties, we see that they're 2 high safeties, and then we look at the outside corners and they are press man against us with an inside shade. We're immediately thinking cover 2 man, which is one of the best defenses in this game in my opinion. Very hard to cover, or very hard to get open, very hard to get open. So what are some route concepts you can do to get some people open? Again, you need to utilize your abilities on your receivers. If you don't have abilities on your receivers, you're making a mistake. So I'm just going to tell myself, this is most likely a cover 2 man. I'm going to now audible to a tight formation. Now against cover 2 man, the beaters are, outside cutting routes, crosses. You need abilities on the receivers, like I said. Middle routes, like that route with Russell Gage, who's running a go up the middle. And I think the tight formation is probably one of the best formations to run against cover 2 man. So I'm going to put Chris Godwin on a corner route. And I don't know if I'm going to be throwing it to him because you can see that corner already has an outside shade on him because of that tight formation. So he might not be able to get open. But I'm going to utilize that by putting Cade in on a zig. And I'm going to leave that left side. I'm going to try to get that corner or that safety on the left side to go towards Russell Gage and try to get Mike Evans on that corner route. Let's see what happens. We got Mike. Look at that. So it's all about occupying zones and using your best speedy ability receivers on the outside and let them run corners, let them run slants. They will get open. So let's go to the instant replay here. Let's look at this side first. We had him on a zig. He was locked up. And honestly, Chris Godwin may have had him here if I threw it on this side. That would have been a dot. And here, we even had Russell Gage. We had Russell Gage because, again, a linebacker is on Russell Gage. That's something that you need to adjust if you are playing defense. Make sure you have fast guys as your linebackers if your opponent is passing a lot. But he occupies this corner just enough, or this safety just enough to get Mike, look at that, Mike Evans wide open. He turns his hips towards Russell. Mike Evans makes his cut to the outside and has a bunch of space. Easy tutty against cover 2 man. So now we picked our play again, and there are 2 high safeties once again. But this time, the outside corners are 8 yards off the ball. What could that mean? Immediately put in your head, 2 high safeties, 8 yards off the ball with the corners, or the outside corners. That is a cover 4. That means that there are 4 guys dropping back into deep coverage and only 3 guys underneath. Cover 4 is meant to prevent the deep ball, which is why they have 4 guys deep, 3 guys underneath. So what I like doing is kind of overloading the underneath zones. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute, but the basic beaters in cover 4 are flats because they're wide open, especially when you throw them quick. I'll show you that right now. Quick, boom. Easy, 5 to 10 yards. Just like that, quick flat routes beat cover 4 all the time. Underneath stuff is always there. Watch Mike Evans. Just let it develop, boom. Another 5 to 10 yards. So one thing I do enjoy about cover 4 is that I like that the digs are usually open and maybe even the posts. I'm going to try to get this post open just by occupying the defender. Like, look at this, wide open. Boom. The reason that was open is because this dig route occupied these 2 defenders, and look how much open space this post route had. One thing I do recommend if you want to practice reading coverages not versus anyone, I would go to practice. I would get into, your scheme, whatever you run, and I would go to nickel, and I would press L3, and it will give you any random nickel defense for you to face. So now you can try to guess what coverages they're in. So this is good. I believe this is going to be a cover 2. Again, this is a random play. I don't know what play it is. There are 2 high safeties with those outside corners 5 yards off the ball with an outside shade. So I immediately think to myself, cover 2. So I'm going to try this. It might not be correct, but you look at the instant replay afterwards and you find out if it is. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do exactly what I showed you before. All right, we're going to see if this is a cover 2, and we're going to see he is blitzing, and we got him. A horrible throw, but wide open. So this is the flat defender. He was respecting this route because that was his job. we had that go route occupying this safety. And if it was a good throw at all, he would have put it over here near this front pylon, which he did, but, at the stands or the cheerleaders. Did not mean to zoom in. And if that ball, is right here, that's a tutty. If you have any questions whatsoever about any coverages, if you need me to explain something in more detail, just let me know. Hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.